to a new episode of the Elseworlds Exchange. A very happy day to all of you who are watching, and happy day to my co-host Joel. Welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Oh man, it is a pleasure, especially on a day like today when we find out that a tyrant has been toppled.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch, old witch, the wicked witch.
I didn't even really know about Perlmutter. I want to know when you first heard the name Ike Perlmutter, because when I first heard it, it was in a context of don't ever say it. Don't say it out loud.
The evil one. Do not say his name.
Right? It's like Voldemort or Candlejack. Just don't say his name or he'll come for you. The reality was, like, I remember as you gather your story, I was told by Dinesh of Valiant. He was like, don't say Perlmutter. Don't mention his name online. Don't blame him for anything because he's listening. Because he's listening as people, and they're like, he has people, and you will be blacklisted. Like Marvel will definitely stonewall you if you like criticize Ike Perlmutter in public.
How Stalin-esque.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't even know who that is. And then I went back and I'm like, I looked him up and I'm like, oh my God, I have a Wizard magazine for this occasion. And in my old Wizard magazine, there is a little article. It's like this big in the front of the magazine where all the boring news stuff comes in. And in it was like, Avi Arad and Ike Perlmutter take over Marvel Comics. Ike Perlmutter is made into CEO. I was like, what is happening? This is the day.
That is certainly where I heard it too. I heard his name only in relationship to Avi Arad.
Exactly, because they're both toy people. They're both from Toy Biz.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not familiar with the current state of affairs, Ike Perlmutter was fired by Disney. No mincing words, no discussion, no debate, no speculation. Just he was fired, and he no longer is with Disney. And Marvel Entertainment has been folded into other arms of Disney.
Yeah.
Now, I want to mention that interesting fact as well, because Marvel Entertainment was only coined as an entity, as a name, after the bankruptcy.
Yes.
When the bankruptcy took place in the late 90s, Ike Perlmutter and Avi Arad were actually entrenched in a bitter custody battle over Marvel itself with Ron Perlman and company. And
not to be confused with Ron Perlman. I know I've read that name wrong many a times.
The incredible actor and sometimes Clayface. No, I'm talking about Ron Perlman. But after the dust settled, the former co-owners of Toy Biz emerged victorious, and in their alignment of restructuring for Marvel Comics and Marvel Enterprises, they turned it into Marvel Entertainment.
And this was big news back in the day. Like you said, this was in the age of Wizard and magazines before the internet. When you wanted to learn this stuff, you had to do a lot of legwork to actually figure this out, behind the scenes intercompany politics of it all.
Yeah, the names were not terribly well known. They certainly weren't celebritized. People didn't talk about them, and that was much to Ike Perlmutter's benefit and joy, because he was infamously reclusive.
Still is.
Yeah, of course. But as you can see from the thumbnail of this video, we got some photos. But it's actually interesting how rare you can. You'll see this picture everywhere, because it's one of the few high-res images of the guy, because he's been very secretive, very covetous, and very protective of his privacy and identity.
Which naturally leads me to believe, what the hell are you hiding, man?
Yeah, and it could be because of his history and where he's from, but I think it's just because he's just a kooky lunatic.
He's Howard Hughes. He's a Howard Hughesian billionaire.
Right. But even Howard Hughes made
movies
things.
And shit.
This guy,
it's the Spruce Moose. Get in.
Yeah, exactly. But at least the Spruce Moose was an idea. It's like, I want to make a big plane. Cool. What does Ike Perlmutter want to make? Inhumans TV shows.
Yeah.
So Ike Perlmutter had, as the thumbnail will suggest, Ike Perlmutter was with Marvel since then, since 1994.
Yep.
So just about 30 years he's been with Marvel, and but he's only been CEO since right before the acquisition of Disney.
Yes.
I want to say 2005. And there's a number of articles about this subject, but
He's of course credited with the big $4 billion sale and everything, and
yes.
even after selling it, he got to stay on as a board member. Which again, it's all very Succession. Yes, you can do that. You can sell a company, and then they still got to cut you a check because you're still technically part of the board.
Yep. And he was still CEO of Marvel Entertainment. Like, they still kept him there because they figured, well, I mean, like, he knows what he's doing, even though there's no evidence to support that. But
people did still have to clear stuff with him. They still did have to come to him, and that led to a lot of friction with a lot of the different creators there over the years.
oh, absolutely. Not just creators, but employees at Marvel. And so there are a lot of great like stories, which we'll get into, but I want to get into just like the history and the like kind of context of the sacking of Ike Perlmutter, because I think it speaks to a larger problem that really frustrated me. But we'll see what happens, because this is a live show where
Right.
people can watch the show right now here on ComicPop Returns. And if you want to support us, you can use super chats, ask a question or comment, read it here on the show, or you can go to patreon.com/ComicPop, or just subscribe and click the notification bell so you know when we go live next time. But in this particular case, there are a number of articles about it, but like, we're not all millionaires. So like, we're not going to pay for the New York Times article. So there's a great handy Polygon article that I'm going to drop in the chat right now, and it's going to be pinned at the top. Or if you're watching the show after it's live, you can also catch it in the comments down below.
Yeah.
But according to this article, it gives a good little comprehensive breakdown. More importantly, it gives you the context you need about the sacking of Perlmutter, because we know that, like, even if you've only heard of him recently, there are stories about Ike Perlmutter.
Infamous.
Stories about his cheapness, about his misogyny, about his racism, about his issues with with employees,
his political affiliations, and where he was spending his money. For those who don't know, in 2016, everyone, he was basically running veterans affairs because he played squash with people at Mar-a-Lago. And yes, apparently it just was that easy to get a job from the twice impeached, now indicted former president.
That's true. That's true. So according to this, we got 3 decades at Disney, and according to Disney, they're downsizing, they're cost cutting.
It was something like 7,000 jobs they're going to be cutting in the next year.
Which is true, but usually when a major corporation is downsizing and cost cutting and removing employees, they don't also fire their CEO of a major corporation.
They don't start at the top, and this is also around the time too where didn't Marvel lose another VP, that lady who was the head of their VFX department,
Victoria Alonso, yes,
which was also a pretty high profile one too, because no one expected losing her.
No, Victoria Alonso had been with Marvel Studios since the beginning, since before the beginning. And I think that was more of a sacrificial decision as opposed to an actual, we're getting things done, we're making changes. Because like Victoria Alonso coordinated with Stan Winston Studios to make an awesome looking Iron Man suit. Like, it wasn't just in the last 4 years that she had some kind of influence over Marvel Studios. I think they were just like, we need to create a theater that makes it look like we're shaking things up, and we're going to get back to basics. And
it's all very Succession too, where it's like they came into the board and said, okay, who's getting fired? Who's falling on this sort? You.
Right. And it could have been just one of those things where they're like, who wants to retire?
Yeah.
Like, who wants to move to another studio and also enjoy a golden parachute? Because there's no way that Alonso didn't get a huge payout.
Oh, of course not.
But so yeah, he's being let go, or has been let go. But the reason for it is so frustrating because he has been terrible at his job
forever. He's not an artist. He seems to have only set up roadblocks for artists, and yet he got to keep drawing a paycheck and keep giving them headaches.
What are some of the infamous things that we know about Ike Perlmutter's influence over Marvel and Marvel Studios? Infamously, he wanted to push the Inhumans because Fox, of course, had access to the mutants and X-Men.
Total pettiness.
Absolute pettiness, but not. It didn't just stop at, oh, I want to, lean on another similar group of characters. It was the marginalization of the X line and mutants.
One of the worst times for X-Men comics came about is because of that.
Exactly. Plus removing them from merchandising, like actually hurting yourself by removing them from logo. There's my favorite example is the Secret Wars cover from Secret Wars #1 being rechanged to replace every mutant with an Inhuman. And I'm like, why would you even bother? Like, what are you doing? And those were on T-shirts. I wonder if those are still available. But
I'm mad. That's why.
yeah, and it's like, but so that's neither here nor there. You run a corporation. That's not a person.
Again, you figured that a man who made his money in like freaking Revco razors and shit and Coleco's would at least understand the importance of merch and the importance of brand names and everything, and knowing that you're just shooting yourself in the foot for long-term profits.
Absolutely. Fantastic Four, same deal. Fox marginalized the Fantastic Four, put the Fantastic Four in a position that I don't think they've recovered yet from
Not
it.
really.
Where it's like the Fantastic Four had been around for a long time. They did have stops and starts, like the Matt Fraction run and the twice Mark Waid run. But like, I think that since they established, that is to say, Ike Perlmutter and his decision making made Fantastic Four irrelevant enough that the audience ended up either agreeing or forgetting about them.
You took them away for too long, and the universe got on just fine without them, and that's really, really sad. The best Fantastic Four story was either the Hickman Secret Wars, which was secretly always about them, or Thing Human Torch 2-in-1, which you just had 2 of the 4, and that was the best one.
Yes. Oh my God, what a good book that was. That was one of the books that finally put me on Zdarsky's radar.
I know.
Zdarsky on my radar, I should say.
Same, where it's like, man, if this dude can make one of the best goddamn books out of just 2 of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. So we've got that. There's also, of course, the like weird personal stories. Oh, not to mention the fact that he apparently is. Oh, he wanted to fire Kevin Feige.
Yes, in 2015.
In 2015.
For basically no other good reason than, hey, you're more liked and more popular than me. Fuck you.
Why would anyone care? Like, you don't want to be on film. Why would you be upset that people like him more?
Because I'm old and rich and weird, and now I'm going to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. Also, the guy very famously, too, tried to shoot down Captain Marvel and Black Panther, saying that audiences don't want women and people of color in their leading roles. This is when I think most people came to know. He's like, wait, who's this weird old rich man with these old-ass, out-of-date ideas who apparently holds sway over my superhero universe?
Oh, I know, especially the kind of superhero universe that is, like, famous for inclusion and diversity. I mean, like the creation of Monica Rambeau, Blade, Black Panther, etc. It's just like weird that suddenly he's like, well, based on my empirical evidence of selling plastic figurines in the 80s and 90s, I can tell you that a major motion picture franchise would never support it.
Now I'm going to give $1 million to Marco Rubio's super PAC because I make good choices. Now, again, he was proven empirically wrong too, as both those movies ended up making $1 billion and launching huge franchises unto themselves. And I think really that's where his power truly started to wane, because it's like, why do we listen to this guy at all? Why do we give him a say in this? And eventually Feige would break away, and eventually he would end up going to Bob Iger and Dave Horn and everything. It's like, okay, you report to us now, not him.
Absolutely. No, Bob Iger, thanks to the behest of Feige's situation, allowed for quick decision making to realign Marvel Studios, which put Ike Perlmutter squarely in charge of Marvel's TV division, which is also
just
weird.
The TV, not the streaming stuff, just the Jeff Loeb stuff.
Exactly, which is weird.
And I'm also sure pissed him off more, because we also kind of had a battle between, what's the real Marvel TV?
Oh, absolutely. It was entirely because of that we got the Inhumans shot in IMAX, despite the fact, just so we could like argue that it is technically in movies and so forth. But like, that's funny. I was thinking about how Perlmutter's influence in that TV division led to Scott Buck.
Oh, yes.
It was really weird. And I think it's because, as I understand it, Scott Buck was notoriously inexpensive as a showrunner and was able to make significant cost-cutting measures in his TV shows.
Well, which is why Hawaii.
Which is why, that's like an alien landscape. But like twice hired for the two
Worst
blights
ones,
on
yeah.
all of Marvel Studios productions.
Iron Fist and Inhumans, which again, Perlmutter must have liked him, because why else would you get 2 kicks at this can when historically you don't get 2 kicks at the can in the MCU?
Yeah, but not just the cheapness of like, let's hire the worst showrunner in television history, but also day-to-day managerial decisions as well. Things like, well, for example, in terms of Marvel Studios, why are we spending so much money catering these affairs when we could just crack open a bag of Ruffles or Lay's, but
potato
crack open
chips.
some chips and make those available to our $1 million movie stars and our award-winning directors we're trying to court. And then at the end of the night, at the end of the event, taking account of how many cups and forks and plates and spoons were used, so we can reduce that for next time. That's something you do when you are an anal retentive engineer hosting a dinner party, not when you are running a supposed competitive movie studio.
Multi-billion-dollar studio making the biggest movies of the day that make $1 billion after. Again, Sal's not being hyperbolic here. He actually did that, and apparently he's done this as whole career. When he was running Marvel Comics, word was he would actually go through the trash to look for discarded staples and discarded paper clips. Like, well, we should definitely be reusing these. This man is a billionaire, by the way, digging through the garbage like some sort of crazy Dickensian street urchin.
Absolutely. Looking back at old like Glassdoor reviews of Marvel Comics, I remember how they described that issue where, and I think we've talked about this on numerous occasions, but the idea of like, well, they're not allowed to have individual garbage cans because it costs too much to have like the cleaning people stay for that long to have to like empty every garbage can at every cubicle. So rather, just one big garbage can at the end of the hall on every floor. Every floor gets one garbage can. And employees should probably just buy and bring in their own toilet paper.
Yeah, and we're gonna feed you from a big trough, you know.
But those Glassdoor reviews are still up, and they're amazing. It's fantastic to read. Like talking about how Marvel's a boys' club and how there's cheapness abound. Like there's no breaks, there's no comfort. It's all like old rickety chairs, like one bad wheel. But all thanks to the efforts of one man who had managed to ingratiate himself into that company for over 30 years.
I mean, I guess you don't get to be a billionaire with many different trash cans. Apparently, that's just the billionaire mindset that I am lacking in.
Yeah, smart like a fox, man. You don't get to be a billionaire by wasting money on paper clips.
By writing a lot of checks.
Yeah, that is not those two. That dog don't hunt. So you've got those stories, and so for decades you have heard about the culture at Marvel Comics being dominated by this secret,
shadowy,
mischievous force out there. Yeah, the shadowy figure that like that used to only be photographed in black and white and blurry from like the tarmac.
An ancient cryptid, a modern day Phantom of the Opera. We do not say his name. Let's invoke his wrath.
Right? So you got that, and yet nothing gets done. Nothing changes. And for the most part, I mean, like under his watch, you do still get Marvel Studios, you get Marvel Comics, you get a lot of your favorite comics came under his watch, but that was, I think, more in spite of Perlmutter than as a result of Perlmutter. It's similar to like, Joe Quesada was editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. It doesn't mean that he's responsible for every good thing they did, but it doesn't mean he's also responsible for every bad thing they did, but it doesn't mean he doesn't deserve some freaking criticism for his decisions.
It's true. We've done episodes like this in the past on DiDio, on Quesada, and even then we had to say it's like, well, yeah, but they were creatives though. They did things, they had ideas, and some of them we actually liked. With Perlmutter, again, it's like, what do you even do besides being an anchor around everyone?
Yeah, exactly. No, he only really like held things back, but not in a like. Not even in a justifiable way. Not in a way where you're like, slow your roll, don't get too enthusiastic, don't overspend, don't put us in the hole. Now, it could be because he's gun shy from the bankruptcy. It could be because just a crazy person. We don't know, and I don't have any interest in speculating. My issue, chief among them, is that we have known that Perlmutter has been an issue. And an issue with the comics and the studio for decades now.
Yep.
The reason he's fired is because According to the Polygon article that we can check, we know that he had a friend that he tried to push onto the board. At
Yes.
Disney.
Again, the most beautiful bit of crony capitalism possible. This guy should be hired. Why? Because he's my friend.
Yes, his personal friend Nelson Peltz, and tried to fast track him onto the board so that it would block out any other opposition he might face, most notably Bob Iger, who, of course, was no
He's
longer with the
back now.
company. And he was, of course, Ike Perlmutter, that is, a big booster of Bob Chapek when
How
he
about
came in.
that?
Probably because Chapek didn't have, it could be any number of reasons, but my thought process, my thinking is it's because he's like, well, Iger did not like me. And Chapek doesn't know me, so let me make friends with this guy and get a couple of friends on the board so I can really like get into, because it wasn't, I mean, Perlmutter was never really an executive at Disney. He worked for a subsidiary. He was never allowed into the big boys club. And as we know, his best friend and crony, Supreme Avi Arad, all they've ever wanted is to be in the movie business and work in Hollywood. Avi Arad, it will never be better for Avi Arad than that moment on the stage at the Oscars, winning an Academy Award.
You could tell
being elbowed by everyone around him to keep him from getting to the microphone.
Get out of here, you money man! What did you do?
Right? I suggested Venom. I'm the Venom guy.
He sure is.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, you're the reason Spider-Man 3 was bad. Well, one of the reasons, but
that's funny because if you watch TikTok, apparently Spider-Man 3 might be the greatest movie ever made.
So I've heard. Isn't it funny how tastes change over time?
Yes, if you live long enough, you will find out that everything that sucked was actually amazing.
Secretly great.
Actually, Turtles in Time was the best Ninja Turtles movie. If you give it a chance, just don't be so cynical about it. It's Ninja Turtles. Hello. But anyway, yeah, but this is the decision. Now when Disney brought back Iger, and Iger caught wind that Perlmutter was trying to fast track this Nelson Peltz onto the board, this is the straw that broke the camel's back and got Perlmutter removed. And that sucks. And the reason why it sucks is because he didn't get fired for incompetence or for
being shitty
or for being just a garbage man. He got fired because he pissed off repeatedly the wrong executive.
Yeah.
So we can only hope that our dragons will be slain if they are either incompetent or complete asshole morons.
Yeah.
That's all we have. Like that's the
that way.
We need to outlive our enemies because that's the only way that we will ever win. That sucks on toast. And it's so frustrating that because this is not a victory. That's the frustrating part, is that Perlmutter being fired is great. Yay. Should have happened decades ago. Should have happened.
Hollow victory.
It is a hollow victory because it's not, it is without purpose
and without justice.
Without justice, there's no justice. People have been talking about the paper clips for 15 years. No action. All they could do is go, well, he's a shady character that doesn't want to get photographed. We never hear about him and don't mention his name. That blows.
Yeah, pretty much.
That blows.
Though I do find some poetic irony that a man who was all about, downsizing and cost cutting got let go as part of a downsizing cost cutting initiative. There is some. I'm sure Iger had some fun with that, being geez, no, it's just not in the budget anymore. Ike, sorry, we just can't keep you around.
And I appreciate the kind of corporate bullshit, that they didn't lionize him in any way by being Ike Perlmutter has been a thorn in our side for too many years, and now we're finally free of his reign of terror. No, instead it's just we need to save some money on this sheet here. Bye.
May history forget your name.
Right, that is how important you are. I don't think about you, and you were an item on a sheet of other items that needed to be removed. It's just that's funny, but also it makes me frustrated because I'm there's no lesson here. There's none at all. There rarely is. It's all corporate politics and maneuvering. So we're not really going to harp on it, but it's just a lesson. It's something that I've taken away from it where I'm that blows that he wasn't fired for any reason that would justify termination by anyone who would be in any way socially or economically under him.
Yep.
It's only when he pissed off an equal
Yeah.
or someone slightly higher than him.
Did anything happen? Though, I mean, I guess it is ironic that this was only because Iger came back. I mean, Iger didn't have to come back.
No, and in fact, I have criticized Disney for bringing back Iger only in as much as I'm like, there's no one better than the last guy who doesn't want to be here. Like,
stay the course, stay the course.
And I'm not like a Disney adult. I don't care about like what Disney is doing or how it works. I just want to keep
But how's
reading
it
my
going to
comic.
affect the parks, Sal?
Right? I don't care. You know, if they were cheaper, that'd be great. But like otherwise, I just because I've been to 3 times in my life at different decades. But like I don't know.
And I've never been, and I don't know if I'll ever be because the prices keep changing.
Oh, I
and,
know.
And they keep making it more labyrinthian with the apps and the genie pass. And like I try and keep up, but I'm like, I don't. Do I need a Sherpa to go to the Disney park? Can I hire a guy who will do it for me and just lead me around?
That is the way to go. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like I don't care about how like Disney will fare, but I also finding out when they were like, ladies and gentlemen, we got the last guy to come back. I'm like, that's not a victory.
And also, we got the last guy to come back because the guy we had before shit the bed so hard and so publicly, you know, by running his fucking yap and getting into things that he shouldn't have and going to war with the fucking state of Florida.
Right. Yeah.
For
like,
some dumbass reason.
What are you doing? But you know, so
and having our own workers rebel against us because they hated him so much. You know who didn't do that? The last guy.
True, but the last guy effing retired. You know, you need to. You can't keep doing that. You know, sometimes people die; they don't just retire. Sometimes they retire and they never come back. I don't know. It's just like for me, I'm like that seems like a counterintuitive decision, but also it certainly it should be a temporary one. You know, like be here for an interim. And as I understand it, it is interim. But you know, what does that mean? I mean, you know, it's a great job. It pays a lot. It's, you know, you give a lot of power associated with it. And he got to right a wrong that has been wrong for 30 years. And that's getting rid of Ike Perlmutter. So I guess there's a success there.
Yeah.
Let me read a couple of super chats. Maybe that'll get us through the next part. But Mickey Veach mentions, I genuinely thought they booted this guy years ago, but better late than never. It's generally assumed that he's the reason comics try so hard to be like the movies. Maybe that'll change now. I sincerely doubt it, only in as much as Perlmutter wasn't the one who like coined that expression. In fact, going back as far as Batman 89, Danny O'Neill was like, we need to get some graphic novels on the shelves to tie in with the movie.
The Troika storyline. His costume went all black because of that.
That's true. Yeah, no. I think Danny O'Neill even wrote the Batman 89 comic book adaptation. But like, you know, tying in with the movies is just that's what comic books do, and it's so frustrating. Yeah, comic books, especially comic book executives, editors, some creators look at comic books as a stepping stone or as like a redheaded stepchild to movies, and so I don't see that changing. In fact, I see more synergy because, you know, Perlmutter was egocentric and out for himself. I wonder if the new CEO, who I guess might be Feige or something. I don't know who the CEO has been named, or if it has, or if they even will bother.
It's all a little nebulous now. It's like, oh, it'll all be under other Disney, you know, friggin' departments and everything. And definitely Feige seems to be the top dog in everything else because apparently comics are supposed to relate to him now too, but we don't know how that works.
Yeah, isn't he COO or something like that? Like, okay.
He runs the whole shebang now, as far as we can tell.
Yeah. But I don't see that changing anytime soon. Trash Cam, hopefully this axing doesn't spell anything bad for the publishing arm. Glad to see Joel back in CPR. Yeah, man, I think that's going to be the next aspect of this show is going to be talking about its influence on the comics, and we will definitely get into that in a minute. But short version is, like when DC was on the chopping block during the like AT&T debacle, I don't see comics going away But I do see some shakeups.
Because I don't think they regard comics that much at all. And also, let's not forget, this dude had most of his power diminished by 2015 during that power struggle with Feige anyway. So I don't think he was calling many shots to begin with. I think he was just collecting a check and, drinking the office coffee.
I wonder, because if he was able to marginalize the X-Men and hype up the Inhumans and screw over the Fantastic Four and suppress books that like otherwise would be successful or at the very least be interesting to try, he must have had some direct influence over the comics. And without that negative force, I wonder, and I fear that because there's no leadership whatsoever at Marvel, and there are so few editors as it is, Marvel's going to be even more of a ship without a mast. Baggins 117, does this mean Amazing Spider-Man comics will be good again? Lol, I know it doesn't. Good, I'm glad you do, because it has nothing to do with iPromoter. I'm sure he couldn't care less.
As we have said in several other shows, there are many, many problems facing the Amazing Spider-Man book right now.
Yeah, despite the fact that it is the #1 selling book at the company, and people buy it and enjoy it. Ray Farr, ComicPop, woo, get that old fogey out of here. Saying Black Panther wouldn't be successful was his funniest quote. Him and Aviara give me the ick. That's fair, and they definitely do seem to secrete it.
Well, what's Rob doing these days? Anyway, it feels like he's been radio silent for a hot minute.
I think that after the Oscars, they were like, you work here as like you work here for as long as the contract says. Please stop talking. Please stop doing interviews. Please go away.
Know your role. Stay in your lane.
Exactly. Max Baer, do you think Marvel will keep more of their back catalog in print like DC does now? The penny pincher's gone. That's a fantastic question. That is a fantastic question, Max. And here's why. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here's the real nitty gritty about that. Marvel doesn't like to have overstock.
Sure don't.
They don't want to imagine that there's a warehouse full of books that aren't being sold right now. It's why their trade paperback game is so shitty, because because with DC, Watchmen, it's a bad example because they also keep it in print to keep Alan Moore from getting it, but it keeps selling. It makes money to keep being in print. But books like Watchmen or Dark Knight Returns, let's say, are always in print. They always have a copy because they know it's like a big deal and it needs to be on shelves.
Totally.
And so they will order a stock and then they will make that stock available to outlets.
You'll never not be able to find one. Any bookstore, any, comic shop, it's always there.
Yeah, but when you need more, you need to print more. And so instead of having to go through the process of waiting for printing and ordering more prints and worrying about paper shortages or ink, cost increases, you could just have a stock in the warehouse of books. We printed this much and it's all there waiting to be distributed. Marvel doesn't do that. Marvel prints to order. Or they do as much as they close as razor thin to the order as possible so that they don't have like unsold stock in the warehouse. It's just a miserly way to look at it. I don't want to imagine a warehouse of books that aren't being sold. Like, I only want to sell what we have and that's it, which is why Marvel trade paperbacks, which should be like $10, sell for $40, $50 because they go out of print. So
I was looking at a copy of The Gauntlet from Dan Slott's Spider-Man, which isn't even that long ago. I think it was like $300 for a collected edition. And I'm like, eat my whole ass. I am not.
Exactly. I'll go to the back issues, just grab it for $1 a piece. Are you kidding me? So no, I think that that is one significant benefit that we may see as long as we get a CEO who actually knows how to run the company, if they are going to have one. Yeah, it would be great if they got like a former publisher of anything to come in. Tick Noros, this might sound dumb, but because the comic book industry is so insular, won't they just hire in-house, which are the same people that are causing the problems at Marvel? Thanks again for great content. Thanks, Tick. I don't think so, because I don't really think that Disney is the problem at Marvel. I don't think that Marvel has necessarily had a significant problem outside of really tone-deaf belief systems and antiquated publishing approaches, or just left field off of the top of your dome, out of pocket ideas about how to run publishing.
Yeah, it's the publishing stuff that always gets me, where it's like, come on, you guys could do this way better. Why are you guys stuck in the 90s?
Right. Like, hell, the 90s, they overprinted. They produced, like, there were books for everybody, and there were a million of them apiece. I don't know what they're going to do with the publisher. I know that Disney has no interest in getting in the publishing business.
No.
So, and that's the only reason why I'm so concerned, is because I know that neither Warner Brothers or whatever the company owns them today.
Didn't they partner with Penguin Books not that
Yes.
long ago? Wasn't that a whole big thing too that we expected would end up making
Marvel?
huge waves and huge changes, and then nothing really happened from it?
We got a bunch of really, really good-looking Penguin reprints of classic Marvel stories, Black
Well,
Panther,
that's
Captain
good.
America, Spider-Man, and they're available at comic shops and in bookstores, and they look great, but they look like Penguin books. They don't look like comic books. Ray Farr, my first memory of Ike was in the early 2010s when the Inhumans push began, and Ike made me hate the Inhumans.
Thanks, Ike.
Yeah, the Inhumans made me hate the Inhumans.
And now they're dead.
That's right. That's right. Barry Busan says, after Jeremy Adams was canned from his incredible Flash run and news that Daredevil was ending in August, I was running out of reasons to keep up with the big two. This gives me hope for the future. Well, good. I'm glad that could help. It's not going to affect either of those things, but I will tell you that Cy Spurrier writing Flash sounds insane.
It's gonna get me fucking interested.
Worth reading. And Daredevil, they already announced the creative team for Daredevil, and I think it's, or have they? I thought I remember hearing that like we know what the creative team for Daredevil is. But,
I don't. Who did you hear it was?
I don't recall. I just remember that it was a thing. Like I remember seeing a list, but maybe that's out of school. So I will just say that Daredevil will continue, and
because it always does.
And just follow Zdarsky. He'll be fine. Like he won't be just Ray.
And also remember too that Daredevil has had one of the greatest successions of writers of any comic book character ever. That's best true. Miller years, the best Bendis years.
Yeah.
Charles Soule had a good one, which I feel kind of got erased from time now because the Zdarsky run blew up everything around it. But even that was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Wade, Nascenti.
Oh, God, yeah. Two Wade. You got two Wade run.
That's true. The Samney run.
Yeah.
Dirk Pectus, when I first saw the first Riddler episode of Batman the Animated Series, I felt bad for that video game CEO he terrorized. Now looking back at Ike and Alonzo, I'm rooting for Roddy, for Roddle,
yeah,
for Riddler. Yeah, man, don't feel bad for him.
Though, geez, if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Boy, that episode sure is really applicable to modern times in a great way, isn't it?
It really is. Glassman, big thanks to you guys for recommending Jed McKay's Moon Knight run. I'm having a blast. Here's my lunch money. Thank you, Glassman. Hopefully you have more for lunch today. That has been consistently excellent. And I'm so glad. I
fell off, but I loved it when I did. And he's taking over Avengers next, isn't he, McKay?
He is taking over Avengers, and he's got the new Doctor Strange run. Jed McKay is the new Golden Boy at Marvel.
He sure seems to be having a big year, which I'm happy for him because he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, I've never met him, but I'm looking forward to it. Nikki T, Ike was like a tumor, taken over and never giving, and it's like someone finally noticed and took any excuse to get the tumor growth off their neck. I mean, maybe. I definitely agree with you in terms of the metaphor. I wonder if they treated it as seriously as we did. Like, we all recognize it as a tumor. I think this is more like a bad doctor has been diagnosing him for too long, and finally we got a second effing opinion. Ignoros, this is probably dumb, but do you think the outlive them mindset comes because the industry is so insular and it's hard for new and passionate people to break through and affect change? No, it doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help. But I genuinely feel like the comic book industry is small and it is insulated, but
and often incestuous.
That's very true. But a lot of new, I see a lot of new names every year, and I think that you getting new creatives and getting new talent doesn't mean you're going to see any significant or worthwhile change in the industry. Marketing, promotions, publishing, editing,
it's a beast with many heads.
It's got a lot of problems, and I don't necessarily. I'm not convinced that that's the case.
It reminds me too why I probably never would make it in the comic industry, because I'm a very let the work speak for itself kind of guy. When it's like no, there's like 100 other things you do. Great work is often ignored and overlooked, especially in comic books when you can get canceled right away and people be like, man, that book was really good. I would have liked to have seen where they were going with that.
Yeah, no, there needs to be that's a whole other topic. Scarlet Hottie will always be curious as to what an Igerless, free of the creative community phase 2 would have looked like. Guardians 2 seems like the first one made completely after the entertainment studio split. Agreed. Yeah, man, I would have loved to have seen it. But I also, okay. On one hand, I am thrilled that he's gone. On the other, I am sad by the change after the split because it dissolved the comic book brain trust, and I think it further emboldened Disney to be like, we're just as creative as the books that exist, and we don't need necessarily to rely on them. Like, you saw a clearer divide from the canon and the concepts of the comics and what the people who are making these movies just decide to do.
There is a lot more of we make it up as we go along there. It's funny too. I'm sure you saw there for What If season 2. It was a big deal. They're like, oh, we're introducing our first ever original MCU hero, and she's
Yes.
going to be a member of the Mohawk tribe. She's going to have cosmic cube powers. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I'm also like, man, I'm surprised it took them this long to do it. Then I'm like, man, is this going to be a thing going forward? They're like, yeah, the MCU, we're so popular now, we don't even really need the comics anymore. We're just kind of our own thing now.
Yeah, no, they're definitely going to start, they're going to fancy themselves creative, and they're going to start
It feels
going
like testing the waters is what it is. And you could even argue that a lot of Marvel publishing over the last couple bit, it's like, oh, that was a fun, interesting book. That was market research. We were paying you for market research to see what would be really big in a movie or what would be really big in a TV show. Now with this thing, it's like, oh, or is this a future where you guys don't even feel like you need comics to do your market research for you?
Yeah, I hope that's not the case, but
Same.
that's something that's worth discussing and being concerned about it, even if it is baseless, because it forces you and them to be honest and to be like, hey, you're not going to screw us, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no,
Jim,
we're a big Hollywood company. Why would we do that?
Why would we do that? Just because we do it every day, and that's literally our language. Jam Call X, I'll give him this. Ike emigrated from Israel with only $250 to his name, self-taught, and had an ironic knack for finding worth in overlooked potential value. Sadly, his character never grew as much as his wealth. Yeah,
this is true.
I do remember that story, and yeah, that's what I'll give him.
Yeah.
He's also a dickhead.
Dream. Yeah, and a dickhead.
Eduardo Perez Rubio didn't know about the paperclips. He feels like the phrase, how can this get any worse? Yeah. But I should caution everybody, as much as we're dedicating an entire episode to this guy and him being fired and him being like this boogeyman, he isn't a boogeyman. And he isn't all the problems at Marvel aren't going to go away.
No.
And we might not even notice any significant change, because Marvel plans their books like a year or two out. Yeah. So you're not going to see a lot of like immediate change, but I would like to see some changes at the company, at the employee level. I'd like to see I'd like to see some significant, at least some theatrical change to try and make Marvel gain a little bit more respect.
And it certainly feels like they're going for theatrical change with these big, very public shakeups.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Although, the Perlmutter thing, like, you know what? I saw a lot of headlines that said that. So I think, yeah, that was very public. Andrew Gilkison, Perlmutter would likely still be here today if he hadn't tried to fire Feige during Phase 3 and got out on Bob Iger's bad side. Absolutely. No, if he didn't try and go over Iger's head, but I'm telling you, man, this one bringing in his friend onto the board, trying to hire his friend and trying to build like a base.
Yeah, trying to control the board. It's all very Succession, which just came back recently.
Yeah. I think that is exactly what got him fired. YC Goosey. Speaking of books gone too soon, did you ever read the Prez 2015 reboot? Only got 6 of 12 issues, but each one was so impactful. No.
Yeah, I did. I was a fucking massive Prez. It's what made me a Mark Russell fan. It's what made me because that was his first thing with the DCU, which people make fun of DCU now, but that was one of the best things that came out about. We're like, we're going to roll the dice on a fucking new modern Prez book. And yeah, it was great. And never got to finish Gone Too. So I think they got one last issue in like a Catwoman election night special where I'm like, oh God, this is where it ended, huh? This is where it all went. Oh,
yeah, huh?
But Russell's doing fine though. Again, people saw that book for what it was, and he's got lots of work now.
That's good. That's good. So now we're looking at the down the barrel of the future, and we're like, okay, what changes, if any, are we going to see from Marvel Comics with the loss of Perlmutter, but more specifically with the other part of the sentence? It's not just like Perlmutter's fired, moving on. No,
Perlmutter's gone, and now apparently this is all going to be under the purview of some other department. We don't know what.
yes, like especially when we hear the word redundant being used to describe
Oh, I don't
Marvel
like that.
Entertainment.
I
I
don't
don't
like
like the sound of that
redundant.
either. And seeing it being folded into other things. I should point out, by the way, that my point earlier about saying that Marvel Entertainment, they changed the name into Marvel Enterprises, not Entertainment.
Yes.
Back when they folded it from Toy Biz. But yeah, seeing Marvel being integrated into other departments, like not one department, multiple departments.
Departments.
Now, and when I say Marvel Entertainment, I don't mean necessarily just the comics. And I'm sure that they don't care. I'm sure they're talking more specifically about the merchandising.
Yeah.
It's about the merchandising arm, which is fine.
The sweetest plum merchandise.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. Like, if you want to make, if you want Disney to be in charge of your merchandising from now on, knock yourselves out.
They make pretty good merch.
Yeah, they make pretty good merch, and they have they have merch everywhere. It's not going to limit it; it's only going to expand it. I hope it doesn't make it worse, but I don't really buy a lot of Marvel merch as it is. My only hope is
too much. I have no place to put it all.
That's true. I only hope that it doesn't. The fact is Disney says yes to everything, so I imagine that like it's not going to change anything for the collectibles market, for statues and posters and toys. So I wouldn't see that really being any significant change. If anything, it's just you're going to see it. It's going to be more ubiquitous. Like anywhere you see an Elsa, you're going to see a Spider-Man. Everywhere you see, like a backpack, it's or a pencil topper, it's going to be.
Let's put Black Panther on it.
Yeah, it's going to be Black Panther. It's going to be everything.
Which I'm fine with that.
Which is fine by me. It doesn't diminish anything so long as they also recognize the value of the publishing arm and the comic books. I wonder. So the biggest and most noticeable change we will see going forward is the closing of the studio in New York City.
Which is kind of sad because Marvel is so ubiquitous with New York and everything. I know whenever any of those offices close is always very sad because it's like, oh, we lost something we can't replace.
Yeah. By the way, there's no announcement. There's no decision. I'm just saying I would not be the least bit surprised if they closed the Marvel Comics offices in New York City because it's the only thing that is over here that they own. And I could definitely see them being like, Marvel Comics, Marvel Entertainment in New York City is closed. We're moving everything onto the Disney lot.
All in Burbank.
All in Burbank. And, the comics will be here. Like Cebulski has to move here. Like Tom Brevoort will have to move here. Who knows?
Which might suck for them.
Yeah. Or they can leave and we'll replace you with no one because we don't need you. And we don't understand how the industry works, because that is a big issue that I've seen with both DC and Marvel and their overlords is their complete lack of understanding about how the publishing industry or comic book industry works.
Yeah, you can go along with it or you can leave.
Exactly, and we'll replace you with someone who has no idea how this company works. So I think you're going to see the closing of the offices within the year.
Interesting. Okay, let's put a pin in that, everyone. If Sal's right, we all owe him a Coke.
That's fair. Yes. Ray Farr, hope we get more stock. Prices are crazy. I don't know if they will because this is a saving money initiative. Why are the big two not run like book publishers? That's a fantastic question, and I don't know.
I don't have a good answer. I wish I could shake someone and ask them why.
Yeah, I wish I did too. Hell, I wish that the heads of these companies, like whenever they bring in like a president or a CEO or a COO or a chief executive officer or an editor in chief, I wish they'd come from Penguin, Random House, or some effing publishing place.
Have you made money selling printed words before? Cool. Can you help us sell our printed words with pictures?
I'll take Time Magazine, Newsweek, just anybody who knows how to sell a publication or periodical to the masses. That would be a nice change. That would be the first time I'd ever heard of that.
And my pal Jimmy makes a zine.
Okay, you're hired.
Sure, you make a zine. You know more than I do.
Exactly. I don't know, man. But yeah, as far as like folding it in Disney, there's been no discussion of the comics, and there's been what's interesting is, I remember when DC was speculated on the same thing. Of course, they also had like a very vocal minority of people online who are like really, really loud about like DC closing and
Oh, I
seemingly had like
remember.
a vested interest in seeing DC close for some reason.
Yeah, I
Um,
know. I don't get that either. This weird sort of online nihilism and cynicism
I think it
that
comes from a place of I don't really read the comics, and so I don't care if like they're destroyed or not.
no,
Um,
100%. I don't value art. I don't value creativity. I just want to see nerds sad because I never grew out of my swirly phase.
there you go. I wonder if I haven't seen any opposition. I haven't seen anybody speculating about like Marvel Comics to close. I haven't seen any of those.
I think they're at their too big to fail phase right now. It's like, no, they're never going away.
No, but the comic book arm, like I could definitely with Marvel. My cynical nature says Marvel Studios creating new characters
Mm.
and folding the comics and entertainment arm into Disney is the beginning of the end for the publisher because they're like, we don't need you. We don't even want to make books. I mean, we're licensing all of our characters to freaking Dynamite. We don't know. So I mean, like, I could definitely see them going like, yeah, no. Marvel Comics will never close, and then they do, but I don't think they're going to.
I
But
think
I
we all
mean, like,
thought Mad Magazine was, a cultural institution that would never go away until they did. And then I think they kind of came back, but they're not like as big as they used to be.
yeah, I don't know honestly. But my point is just like, hey, don't don't assume it's all going to be fine, but also don't assume that it's going to fall apart. But we need to like just again like keeping people honest and keeping the conversation going. Like, hey, I'd like a official word.
Please and thank you.
You know,
Because also our livelihood is kind of wrapped up in this, yours and mine.
that's true.
We form a symbiote circle, comic publishing, and us. What happens to one will surely affect the other.
This is true, but also I love comics, and I don't want to. I want to keep reading them.
Likewise,
and I don't want to read them in a different way. I don't want it to all reboot, or it's for them to be in zines that I only get at the grocery checkout aisle. You know, what I mean, I want my comic books to be the way they
Archie,
are,
Sonic, Amazing Spider-Man,
right? Or no, just like Marvel Street, and it's just like here's 6 pages of Spider. But that is what Tiffany and I talked about this, like the Shonen Jump model for Marvel Comics. I think that's a fine idea for reprints and to get the books into the hands of children, but
it's all black and white now and made on way cheaper paper.
yeah, great. And we're driving our creatives into the ground further by making them work round the clock so these things can come out once a week. I don't know, but Girk Pectus says, sorry off topic, but did you see Babylon? It's fun trash. No.
But what movie? It's a movie, right? Babylon?
Yeah, it's a movie with Brad Pitt, I think.
I
Tom
heard
King
about
saw
it.
I heard it sucks.
Oh, really? Did Tom King work on it?
No, he saw it.
Oh, he saw it. Okay. I thought, oh, did he? I'm like, oh, now I might have to check it out.
No, and he was on the show. He was like, I saw Babylon. It's garbage. Grumpy Goat says, Darkest Timeline, if when they close the New York City office, will we see a shift in the comics where stories set in New York City less and less as the years go on? I mean, like, maybe. I think that I think that the reason why those stories were set in New York City in the beginning is because A, they were there, but also because B, they were written by the same people, and those people were in the office and lived in the city. As the creative pool widens and as we get more and more variety from our creatives, they're going to want to tell stories in their backyard.
Yeah.
And so we are if we haven't already seen it, we are definitely going to see it in the next couple of years. The ever widening world of Marvel. And that isn't really much different from anything else. I mean, I remember when they closed the Avengers and moved them to the West Coast, and that was the Avengers for a long time. And so, like, you know, or when they weren't even in New York, they were in a hydro base underwater. Like, you know,
I mean, they're Arctic now, for Christ's sake.
I mean, Daredevil's in New York right now.
That's true. Yeah, he's on some weird island off the coast of Russia.
Exactly. He'll be back.
Though they do say in the last issue, it's like, come on, man, you're not a globe trotting here. Like, you're gonna be buried under this burrow one day. Come on, man.
Yeah. I hope that I hope it's not true. Like, I hope that they don't, because I do love that Marvel is in my backyard.
It's quintessentially New York.
Exactly. Silvery Cricket, weird this happened in the same week Disney just got legally allowed to start their own micro-government in Florida. I don't think it's that weird. I think that's more of a coincidence, but
it is funny, though.
It is funny to observe.
I mean, they were also always their own micro-state anyway, the sovereign
they already
state
were.
of Mickey.
Exactly. Brian Lewis 97. Thank you very much for your generosity, my friend.
Hey.
I'm always learning something new from this show and everything you guys do. Best wishes to everyone. Best wishes to you,
Aw,
Brian.
thank you,
Thank you
Kevin.
very much for being here, and really appreciate your generosity. Thank you very much, my friend. So yeah, as far as that is concerned, I mean, like, do you have any theories or speculations or hopes for this shakeup?
I mean, as is always the case when there's a big shakeup like this, people always assume that you're going to see the fallout and you're going to see the ramifications of it right away. No, you're not. These are these are slow butterfly effects. We'll probably have to relitigate this conversation maybe in like 2 to 3 years once the wheels finally start moving. Personally, I don't think it's going to change all that much because, I mean, like we said before, Perlmutter didn't have much power or much sway to begin with. What really we need to keep an eye on is whatever department comic publishing now falls under and whoever's job that is.
Yeah. I mean, as it stands, Dan Buckley is president of Marvel Entertainment, and he is in charge of the comics and the TV and stuff like that. So, I mean, everything that has been going through there has been essentially going through the Buckley filter. Perlmutter could always like pull rank, so to speak, and had in his time.
I have to wonder too. Do you think he ever did he like go down to the office to like rattle cages, or do you think he just had a guy who did it for him?
I feel like Perlmutter is the kind of guy who literally went there. I think he took a if he didn't live in New York, I don't remember where he lived, but like
Florida.
Florida. There you go. Oh yeah,
because they all took up in Florida because of the tax laws.
Oh yeah, no, he took a private jet to New York City whenever he wanted to like feel powerful and rattle some cages, and he definitely did. There's no question in my mind that he would take a private jet, go down into Marvel Comics, like just in a $1,000 suit, a $10,000 suit, ride the elevator with a stern look on his face, practice his mean face in the reflections, and then just walk up and down the aisles and go like, "What's this?" And people go, "Who is that?"
Have
like,
some poor receptionist be like, "Mr. Buckley, Perlmutter's here." What do you mean he's here? I mean, he's here. He's standing in the office right now.
He's already in the office. Like he wouldn't wait. He's just walking through the aisles, like tearing through garbage cans,
like Godzilla walking down Tokyo.
Exactly. I mean, that would not surprise me in the least. From what from the stories I've heard, that strikes me as that kind of guy.
Seems about right. Perlmutter smash.
Like, you never know when like some really tan jerk is gonna come ripping through the office and tell you you're doing your job wrong, and then you'll never see him again. Yeah, it sucks, but I'm glad he's gone, and good riddance to him.
I was going to say, sir, this is a Wendy's. Sir, this is a comic publisher. What do you want?
Exactly, sir. This is Marvel Comics. What are you doing? He goes in the office. He's like, "Why is there a new thing of coffee here? There's an old one in the cabinet right here." Like,
yeah, really? What are you, my mother?
So yeah, I genuinely think that things hopefully will. I mean, without roadblocks, you can always go faster.
Yeah.
I wonder if the integration of Marvel Entertainment into a nebulous decision, like a nebulous description, like various portions of Disney. What does that mean? I would like to know. I do think that the entire comic book industry, like I'm now more convinced than ever that the entire comic book industry will not resemble what it was in 5 years.
And I mean, such is life. Things are always changing and evolving. I mean, how we never thought DC would shake up the way that it ended up shaking up.
Yeah, no, it's true. But like at the end of the day, DC still produces comic books. They still are available in comic book stores. They still do the monthly market. They still play the game. It's still an interconnected universe. They still do shakeups and they continued the Black Label line. Like, they're still innovating. They're still like soliciting new talent. Like, they're still operating like a comic book publisher. I don't know if Marvel changes, if Marvel makes the first move into being a specialty niche market, thing. If Marvel changes the way they do business as a comic book publisher or gets out of it, I see the entire industry completely changing as a result.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you would hope that whoever is in charge of that will at least understand that or have someone tell them that, where it's like, no, DC and Marvel are the pillars on which an entire industry and many sub-industries are built. You cannot Jenga one out of there without destroying an entire industry.
I mean, the problem that I have with that is that, like, I know these people couldn't care less about that.
No, they'll be like, and how much money does that industry make? You call that money?
$1 billion? All of them?
Oh, that's cute. 1 billion.
Yeah,
You think that's a lot of money? Oh,
yeah, that's half of what Avatar made last year.
I wipe my ass with $1 billion.
Exactly. Pop Culture Guy 3000 says, I hope soon either the X-Men and humans or both kill a new bad guy that looks suspiciously like Perlmutter in the near future. That'd be hilarious. I mean, they seem pretty petty. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
There is going to be a mysterious new Captain Krakoa who's going around causing trouble in Uncanny Avengers. Maybe it's him.
Yeah.
It was me.
That would be ironic. But listen, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us and indulging us as we speculate about the sacking of a 75-year-old man.
Yeah.
We will.
He'll be fine. He'll have his big house and his rocket car and his gold turlet.
Yeah, exactly. But listen, if you wanted to catch the show live, you can always do so by subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell notification so you know when we're going live. It's usually Fridays at around between 12 and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will see you guys next time with all new episode. Check out Joel at youtube.com/CapeJoel. And of course, subscribe to everything else that we have here under the ComicPop umbrella, which includes ComicPop Prime, Returns, and Plays. We'll see you guys then. I'm Sal. Joel.
I'm Joel. Thank you.
See you later, everybody. Bye.